Welcome inside the booth. I'm Joel Klatt. This is brought to you by Dr. Pepper, the official drink of Fansville. What a day here for Utah in frigid Boulder, Colorado, as Utah is able to stave off a really slow first half start and turn it on in the second half and play really well. Let's start with the obvious. Colorado was playing for the division, at least maybe. Obviously, the decision makers in the Pac-12 got let off the hook a little bit with Colorado losing this game. If USC is able to beat UCLA, then USC will go and represent the Pac-12 South and try to win a Pac-12 title. It probably would have behooved them much more if Colorado could have somehow won this game, gotten there with a rule change with the Pac-12, because that would have helped the resume for USC if they were trying to at least get a sniff of that college football playoff. But all for naught, Colorado goes down here at home. Let's start with the fact that Nate Landman, the linebacker for Colorado, his injury in the first half was the turning point in the game. The defense for Colorado had played so well, namely because they were able to stop the run. Utah was totally shorthanded, and maybe not shorthanded, but all they had was drop back pass. They couldn't play action. They couldn't run the football, and it was because Colorado's defense was able to stop them so well early in the game. And as soon as Landman went out, it was at the end of the first half. Then all of a sudden, Utah started getting some confidence. I want to go to what I felt like was the biggest point in the game, and that was at the end of the first half. Colorado is up 14-7. Their leader, their best player, Landman, had clearly just been lost for the season. Probably an Achilles injury. The way that he went down, non-contact, it's obviously deflating for your team. So they're just going to go into the halftime with a 14-7 lead. And yet they hand the football off the first time, and you're thinking, okay, if you pop a run, maybe you can get things going. You had 2 timeouts, and you can go down and get a field goal. He didn't pop the run, didn't get a first down. So at that point, they clearly are bleeding out the clock, and they have to snap it one more time. Just take a knee. There's no reason to hand the football off there. All you're doing is inviting disaster, and disaster happens. Broussard fumbles the ball. Utah is able to pick it up. Then they execute beautifully in the last 13 seconds. They had all of their timeouts left, and they're able to get 3 points. So the entire momentum of the game and the feeling for each team was different and swayed going into the locker room. There was a lot of energy for Utah as they go into the locker room, and then when they came out, you could see that on the field. In the second half, the run game for the Utah Utes was sensational. With Landman out, the Buckeye semifinalists, then they were able to get to the second level and get the linebackers blocked. At that point, Ty Jordan started having a huge day. Big run after big run after big run in the second half. Only had, I think, 6 carries, but well over 115, 118 yards there just in the second half alone, including a big one that was basically the nail in the coffin. This is a young team. If I'm a Utah Utes fan, I am so excited about the future of this team. I know Jake Bentley is a senior, but remember Cameron Rising is probably going to come back and be your quarterback. They've got young offensive linemen. They've got their wide receivers and tight ends coming back. They've got Ty Jordan coming back. That's just offensively. On the defensive side, they've got young secondary players that started playing better in the second half. This is going to be a really good team, and a team that I think is going to be the class of the Pac-12 South next year. So Utah fans, you've got a really good team coming back, and now getting to 500, probably get a bowl game invitation somewhere, and you get extra practices to develop some of that youth. So it could not have worked out better for Kyle Whittingham, one of the best coaches in America, and this Utah team after coming in here and getting a huge win. On the Colorado side, I know it's a bitter pill to swallow. If I'm a Colorado fan, though, I'm still really proud of this team. Remember, this is a team that was picked almost last in the division in the South. Arizona was picked 1 spot below them. But who knew what this season was going to bring? We didn't know who the quarterback was going to be for the Colorado Buffaloes. Neuer ends up getting the job, former defensive player, backup safety last year in the transfer portal, comes out of the transfer portal, and he's been really good for them and was really good in the first half. Jarek Broussard comes in after Fontenot injures himself in practice and fall camp, and here's Jarek Broussard putting together a great season. But in the end, the injuries were just too much to overcome. They were unable to sustain their defensive play, which is what they had to do to Utah. They had to make them one-dimensional, and they weren't able to do that with their best player out of the game in Nate Landman. But Colorado fans, you should be so proud of what Colorado has accomplished. They're now 4-1. There are slivers of hope about tiebreakers and potential cancellations, about them getting into the Pac-12 championship game, but it's really not about that. It's about the foundation laid by Carl Durrell and this coaching staff for the future of this program. They're physical at the line of scrimmage. They've got length in the secondary. They clearly have a run-first mentality on offense. They've got good skill position players on the outside, as evidenced. Brendan Rice, a huge game, punt return for a touchdown, that big touchdown early in the second half that he takes right down the sideline. So good building blocks for this Colorado team moving forward. Carl Durrell is the right guy. He is a great coach, perfect personality for this team as it currently stands. Elsewhere around college football, folks, I don't know if anyone's beaten Alabama. Anybody notice that Alabama is clearly the best team in the country right now? They go out there and hammer whomever. It doesn't even matter who they're playing right now. And offensively, they're as good as it gets. They can run it. They can throw it. Devontae Smith is amazing. Najee Harris, amazing. Mac Jones probably played himself into being a potential first-round draft pick in the NFL draft. And that defense, ever since the halftime of the Georgia game, that defense has been lights out. This is not the same defense that gave up over 600 yards to Ole Miss. This is a defense that has transformed, and I don't see anybody, even Clemson or Ohio State or Notre Dame, I don't think any of those teams are going to be able to play with Alabama. They look like they're headed straight for another national title for Nick Saban. Steve Sarkisian, their offensive coordinator, has done an excellent job. Georgia, a big win over Missouri. They look like they're taking that next step. Under JT Daniels, their new quarterback, the transfer from USC, if they can get some offensive firepower with what has always been a great defense, then maybe Georgia can start to compete in that SEC with Alabama and maybe even a team like Florida who's won the East this year. So that'll do it for us here today. Can't wait to watch that battle for LA, USC, and UCLA a little bit later. And I got to tell you, this was fun to be home. This is a stadium that means a lot to me. My dad brought me to my very first game right here in the North Stands when I was 7 years old. I fell in love with this sport, and ever since then, all I've wanted to do was play this sport or work within this sport, and Lord willing, that's worked out. And so it was great to be home, and I can't wait to come back some time in the future. That'll do it for Inside the Booth. This has been brought to you by Dr. Pepper. It is the official drink of Fansville.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.